That's a nice one as well, Debbie. Yeah.
I assume, Eileen, all that background stuff was SC?
Yeah.
Go Bears.
But the obnoxious one was, the rest of it is Ireland.
Go Bears.
Okay, Cheryl, are we on TV now? We're live?
We are live.
Okay. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the regular meeting of the Third Laguna Hills Mutual Board of Directors, the California Nonprofit Mutual Benefit Corporation.
You're muted, Steve.
You're muted.
You're muted.
Okay. I'll reiterate what I said here. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to our regular meeting of the Third Laguna Hills Mutual Board of Directors, the California Nonprofit Mutual Benefit Corporation. Today is April 20th, 2021, and it's a little past 9:30 a.m. Welcome to the meeting. I call the meeting to order, and we do have a quorum. And at this time, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance led by Director Jarrett. And she's muted.
Just one moment. Hold on. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America.
I pledge allegiance to the flag. Oh my gosh. Somebody else do it, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm sorry, I froze.
Thank you. I would, at this time, ask you to turn off your electronic devices so we won't be interrupted. And we'll acknowledge the media as at a distance. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda? Okay, Donna, and then Debbie seconds. Okay, any discussion? If there's no objection, we'll consider this by common consensus. Okay, approval of the minutes of March 16th, 2021, regular board meeting. I hear a motion to approve those minutes. Okay, Annie? A second?
I'll second.
Okay, Reeves is seconds. Any comments, questions, corrections? Okay, hearing none, we'll consider that approved by consensus as well. At this time, report of the chair. I'd like to make an announcement. I'm sure some people have been waiting for a while, and it's on our new ballot initiative on insurance. You know, last fall, the third board of directors brought to the membership a vote regarding insurance and other issues. As you know, it did not pass. Since that time, several members have urged us to generate a new ballot measure dedicated solely to insurance. You spoke and we listened. Our board is pleased to share that we carefully considered your feedback regarding this matter, and we voted unanimously to hold another general election featuring insurance only. As our insurance renewal date is currently October 1st, but maybe sooner, time is once again critical as we are scheduling the election to close the last week of June. The date is significant because we must inform our broker of the level of insurance to secure within the marketplace. To that, we are asking for assistance. We seek a few volunteers who are analytical and wish to help us sort out this challenge. I will chair the effort. If you wish to be part of this team of highly motivated individuals, please contact us by sending an email to info@lagunawoodsvillage.com. Once again, info@lagunawoodsvillage.com with the phrase third ballot initiative participation in the subject line. Once again, that's third ballot initiative participation in the subject line. Thank you for your time and consideration, and we look forward to your participation in this effort. For further clarification about the insurance initiative, I will ask Director Muchnick to make comments. Director Muchnick.
Thank you, President Parsons. Some of you have already seen the agenda and the addendum related to the ballot, and there's already been some confusion. So I'd like to read a statement that we prepared that hopefully will clear up that confusion. We ask the staff to prepare a recommendation and resolution for the third board so that we could begin the process of creating a ballot for the membership to consider changing the CC&Rs with regards to the insurance. As Steve said in his opening remarks, you spoke and the board listened. The first step to try to change the insurance requirement from 100% replacement to something more manageable is to select an independent inspector of elections and to set a timetable for the whole process. That's what we want to do today. The only reason the staff included in the recommendation a reference to the 59 variations is that if the change passes, the insurance change passes, that is, there will need to be filed at the county level changes in each of the 59 different CC&Rs. Yes, most of the CC&Rs are basically the same, but 59 different ones are still on file with the county. So 59 will have to be changed if this ballot is successful. Please know that all 59 will have the same exact change made regarding the insurance requirement, again, should we be successful in having this ballot approved by you, the membership. The actual wording of the changes to the insurance component of the CC&Rs is still being worked on and will be publicly released as soon as it is ready. We are hoping to be able to share the exact wording with you next week. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Muchnick. Now we're moving on to item 7, which is the VMS Recognition and Excellence Awards. And I believe, Siobhan, you'll be taking the lead on this?
Yes, I am. Thank you,
Okay.
President Parsons. Good morning. We are pleased to share the VMS Recognition of Excellence Awards with the third board this morning. This features employees who are being recognized for providing exemplary services to our community. This morning, we feature general services, media services, and maintenance and construction. Thank you.
Hello, hi, my name is Chris Logenauer. I am the General Services Director here, and it is my honor and privilege to highlight a few employees in the General Services Department who's provided exceptional service during this past year. The employees I'm recognizing work for both transportation and janitorial, and the first person I'd like to call up is Gilberto Chagoya. Gilberto is a foreman for our Work Center 935, and they provide the janitorial service for the various mutuals. And over the course of the year, we put a lot of the COVID impact has put a lot of pressure on our janitorial staff. We've had a lot of people out due to illness or quarantine, and as a result, we put a lot of extra work on this guy to kind of handle both the mutuals and also the GRF facilities. But specifically, one thing I'd like to highlight that Gilberto has done is one of the major changes we did to provide more quality service during COVID is we increased the operating hours of our laundry rooms. we have a large number of lighter rooms throughout the village that historically get cleaned about once a month, maybe a little less than once a month. But due to the COVID virus, we made the decision to clean those once a week. So that was a major operational change. Roberto was the person in charge to make sure it happened. And as a result, we're feeling we're providing the residents a much more safe facility for them to do their daily living in. So as a result, Roberto, I'd like to present this to you and thank you very much for your work.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And next, it's my privilege to highlight a team of people who are really the guts behind the transportation system. It's the entire van driver team. We have about 20 or so drivers, both full-time and part-time, where they're the ones that are driving the vans out with the fixed route system, or our journey program, which takes those that have medical needs, more of a one-on-one need, to medical appointments and things like that. And as you can imagine, during the COVID-19 year, 2020 has been very, very challenging for transportation. Specifically, I mean, we were excited when the year first started because we were implementing a brand new transportation system. We totally redid our fixed routes, and we hired a consultant, but one of the major components of making the route system better was the input that we received from the drivers. They were very involved with the consultant. The consultant met with them for a good 2-3 hour time period, got all their feedback, and that feedback was invaluable to make sure we put a good system together. So as we started this up, we started rolling, then all of a sudden in March, things changed. And so we totally had to change everything we do in transportation. And as a result, we got more feedback from the drivers to make any tweaks that we needed because we had to reduce levels of service. So it's because of their input and because of their expertise that they provided us, we're able to maintain a good transportation program throughout the COVID time. The other thing is these guys have been working out on the front line with the residents who have a need for transportation throughout the whole COVID period. And their job has basically changed. In addition to driving, now they're responsible, A, making sure that people are wearing their masks, social distancing, making sure that the bus is clean, all those extra things to ensure the safety of the residents, they did. And the nice part about it, they did it without complaining. They did it because they care about the residents. And finally, I mean, the other thing that was really hard to do operationally is we got to a point to where it was getting so bad that we had to actually reduce the number of hours that the drivers were working, especially for the full-time staff. And so their hours were actually reduced for a few months. And to their credit, they understood, they took it, and they adjusted the best that they could. We were able to get their hours back later. But I was really appreciative of their attitude of providing quality service to the residents first without complaining about new things that they were doing. So it is really my honor and privilege to highlight these guys. They work hard each and every day for the residents behind the scenes. Don't get a lot of thanks a lot of times. So this is a great opportunity for me and others just to say thank you for the work that you're doing. And with that, we got a few little things to hand out for you guys. So the first is Richard Buznez, or Buzz, forget the proper way. So Buzz here, thank you very much, appreciate it. Next we got Jose Barriga. Where's he at? There he is back there. There you go. Thank you, Jose. All right. Next we got Jose Baladran. There he is. Thanks, Jose, appreciate it. And next, Cesar Sanchez. Here you go, Cesar. Thank you, sir. Thank you. And next we have Sean Zada. I won't say his regular last name. Thanks, Sean, appreciate your help. And next we have Mark Holland. Here you go, Mark. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. And next we have Neva Fambro. All right. Thank you, Neva. Appreciate it. And finally, we have Michael Everett. All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate your help.
Thank you.
And that's my driver team. I'm so appreciative of the work they do and glad they have a chance to get recognized in front of the community. Thank you very much.
Hello, I'm Paul Ortiz, and I'm manager for Media Services 55, and across the way is Eileen Paulin. She's our Director of Communications, Media and Communications here in Laguna Woods Village. And this is Michelle Mitzel. Many of you probably don't know her because she really works behind the scenes. She handles all our traffic and billing, and people think traffic, we're thinking security, right? No, we're talking traffic and billing of our commercials and cable ad insertion that we do on our cable networks. And Michelle has been with us for 17 years now. You actually started at PCM Corporate back in the old days and went into Lake Forest and started working there. Yeah, well, she's done a terrific job. And one of the things we want to talk about is this evolution that we've had in the last year with our division.
Yeah, so just about a year ago, at the beginning of the 2020, we merged everything, all of our communication platforms into one department, which made a whole lot of sense, but we didn't realize how great of sense it made until the pandemic hit, because we just hit the ground running, and the relationship between all of the team for media and communications has just been outstanding this year. And one of the things a lot of people don't realize is that we've all heard that we had a malware attack. Well, we kind of got a double whammy up here because the outside vendor that we used to schedule the trafficking got hit. And that basically renders you unable to do anything until it gets straightened out. And Michelle really kept her cool during that. And as a result, it's really important for our residents to realize that advertising revenue offsets the costs of running the studio. So losing any revenue during that time was not going to be a good thing.
Right.
And your dedication made sure that the ads still ran and the revenue came in and the billing, and we just can't thank you enough.
Right. As if the pandemic wasn't hard enough, and the end of last year when we did get hit with that malware attack, you worked through our own IT department, working internally with Chuck and all of his staff to get everything up and running. And here we were, I think, a couple weeks from thinking we're ready to go. And then our vendor got hit with his attack. And then again, that was your expertise, your efforts that really made it happen. And then working with our vendor to get us back online again. And when you talk about revenue, during that whole time, we probably lost only a few days or a week during that time. And if it wasn't for your efforts and proactive work ethic, I don't think we could have got done it as quickly as we did. So congratulations on this Recognition of Excellence Award. Oh, and getting a handshake too.
Oh, you get to really touch each other?
Wow, that's special. But Michelle has done a terrific job here for Media Services 55. If you've ever see her in the hallway, be sure and say hello. And congratulations once again.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Michelle. Well deserved.
Well, my name is Ernesto Munoz. I'm Maintenance and Construction Director of the Maintenance and Construction Department. I'm here with Nynalyn Oxenham, and Nynalyn is one of our key staff members in the Manor Alterations division of our department. Nynalyn has been with us, it's going on 3 years, and she is in the intake section of our Manor Alterations division, which is essentially the first phase that the members see, or the first voice they hear relative to the intake of their requests. And we're here today because we want to express our sincere appreciation to Nynalyn for the excellent work that she does. Nynalyn has a very calming attitude, is very professional with our members, and de-escalate a lot of the issues with them. At the same time, allows them to move forward through the process, the permitting process that we have, that is fairly complex. So she does that in a wonderful manner. In my opinion, in addition to aptitude, there's 3 attributes that anybody that we bring onto BMS need to have in order to be successful. One of them is caring attitude. You know, we deal with a population that needs that understanding, that needs that patience to deal with, and that is a key attribute. Second one is a professional attitude. You know, and you have to be professional no matter what's thrown at you. It can be challenging at times, as you know, and we need to always remain professional and be able to assist in that manner. And the third is our ability to be thorough. If you are not thorough with our systems that we have, it creates confusion and it creates problems down the road. So these three attributes, in addition to aptitude, which is the key also, are exemplified in Nederland. And again, today I'm here very proud to call you our team member, and I want to give you a recognition of excellence award. And thank you so much for everything you do. Like I said, you're a key member of our team, and without you, things would be just that much more difficult. So I wanted to also, Nederland, read an excerpt of an email that I just got yesterday from one of our members. And I'm just going to read pieces of the email, but it's directed to you and the alteration manager, Robbie Dankos. And he says, their exceptional care deserves recognition. These times have been difficult for all of us with our COVID concerns and restrictions, as well as computer system issues. But in spite of these challenges, the excellent communication skills and care displayed by both Robbie and Nederland afforded us one step closer to our escrow closing. We are taking this few minutes to write this letter to you as director. As we feel recognition is certainly due. Please accept our thanks and gratitude for their work. They're shining stars in these difficult and dark feeling times.
That was so nice.
That was a lovely email. I love to get those. Keep them coming.
Okay.
And thank you so much for everything you do, Nederland.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I appreciate the support.
Of course.
Okay.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Siobhan, for that presentation, and congratulations to all award winners. Your efforts are very much appreciated. So we appreciate you bringing the video and sharing this with us. I believe you're going to have some more in the future. Is that correct? Okay, just a few more in the future. Okay, thanks so much. Let's go on to item 8. This is our open forum. And it's 3 minutes per speaker. And I would remind everyone, at this time, members only may address the board of directors regarding items not on the agenda and within the jurisdiction of this board of directors. The board reserves a right to limit the total amount of time allotted to the open forum. Members can join the Zoom meeting by clicking on the link https://zoom.us/i/948-998-06730 or call 949-268-2020 or email meeting@vmsinc.org to request to speak. So at this time, we'll go ahead with the open forum.
Grant, do we have any live comments?
Yes, we have 4 members wishing to speak for open forum.
Would you go
Okay,
ahead?
we'll take all of their comments and then respond to them later.
Great. So the first is Jules Zalon.
Are we on the air?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. The board's failed campaign to vote for the new CCNRs was characterized by a laundry list of drafting errors and fears of expensive repairs transferred from the HOA to the members. Yet after losing the vote, they indicated that they hoped to bring it back in the future. To prevent that, we collected 600 petitions and many more proxies forcing a special members meeting to reject the CCNR draft, create a task force to consider rule changes, and amend the CCNRs to just address insurance. Our bylaws give members the right to vote at such meetings. Why have a meeting except to vote? That's why the meeting is called, right? Apparently fearing that vote, Steve Parsons illegally ruled beforehand that no vote could take place. And when I pressed for a vote, Parsons, Muchnick, and Gottlieb improperly kept interrupting me and cut me off early. What were they afraid of? Well, we did vote 365 to nothing to instruct the board to do what the members wanted. And I guess that's what they were afraid of. At subsequent monthly meetings, we kept asking the board to follow our instructions without success. Today's agenda contemplates adoption of yet another CCNR revision. How will this draft differ from the earlier one? We don't know because we haven't seen its language, but they were obliged to show us that in open session. The Open Meetings Act lets boards meet privately to consider just 4 topics: litigation, contracts, discipline, and personnel. Everything else must be conducted out in the open. So not only is the board ignoring the messages my group has been harping on, they're violating the Open Meetings Act by doing it in the dark. No wonder we don't know what the new draft says. Then Steve Parsons distributes a flyer that claims, quote, "You spoke, we listened." What an Orwellian statement. This agenda item, combined with Parsons preventing me from speaking at successive monthly meetings, shows the opposite. The board has aggressively opposed everything we've spent months trying to put into effect. Their number one job is to do what the members want. If they can't do that, they don't belong in their seats. Thank you.
Okay, next.
The next is Carol Moore.
Thank you so much. I hope you can hear. First, I want to congratulate all the employees who received their recognition of excellence. And from what I heard, it was because of good communication and good leadership. To understand, sometimes we need to step back and take a look at things. What if we heard that a board in the Leisure World community in Arizona had a serious issue and told their community they needed to pass an amendment so the board could address the problem? Let months go by with no communication before the residents finally receive a ballot with no understanding of what the amendment was or even where to find the information they were to vote on. And when the residents finally do find the information, they discover it isn't an amendment. Instead, all their governing documents had been rewritten with some rather significant errors. The board agrees there are problems, but they tell the voters, go ahead, we'll fix the errors later. Most hearing this story would shake their heads, for why would a vote be scheduled before discussing what you're going to vote on? And then what if we hear that hundreds of those residents submitted a petition asking for a special meeting to discuss a possible amendment. The board refused and said, no, we were not going to discuss anything. And we'll follow the law, we'll call the meeting, but we're only going to listen. Again, if you heard this story about another board doing that, you would say, what is going on? There always will be problems, and to solve them, there must be communication and clear direction. We don't believe the board is unskilled. We don't believe the board is not conscientious. No, it is not lack of ability. It's not lack of intent. It's not, but it is lack of direction. More than a year ago, we learned we needed an amendment to allow the board flexibility when obtaining insurance while also protecting residents. The process was heavily flawed last time we were asked to vote, and many of us are concerned that we see the same pattern again. The process must start with discussion to make certain if there are errors, we correct them before any ballots are mailed. We want to work together, but if you think about what I just reviewed, you have to ask, why has this been so flawed? It comes down to a lack of clear direction and communication. Repeating the same procedure and expecting a different outcome is not productive. The first step is not to schedule an election. The first step is to make certain we all agree what we're voting on. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next person to speak will be Karen Shore.
Okay, looks like I'm unmuted. And once again, I'd like to request that we have video of our speakers. I would have liked to have met prior speakers personally, as personal as we can get on this medium of Zoom, which is what I wish to speak about today. Is it possible? Okay, looks like we've got the video going as well as audio. I'm going to go ahead and read my comments today to the third board. My name is Karen Shore. I live at 4012 Calle Sonora Oeste, 3G. Dear third board members, though some community meetings have returned to taking place in Laguna Woods Village buildings, though some community meetings are taking place in Orange County, Laguna Woods Village buildings remain closed for our board and committee meetings. Though Zoom technology has proved to be a very good alternative, it is anticipated that indoor board meetings should again begin sometime in the near future. The intent of my comments today is to make a request that Zoom continue to be offered once indoor meetings resume in our community. Resident participation in board and committee meetings is an important component of this community and should be encouraged. Zoom easily allows access to these board meetings by more people who may not otherwise be able to attend indoor meetings, including those people out of town. I would like to request that Zoom be considered as a regular part of our board meetings going forward. And out of respect towards residents attending Zoom meetings, I would like to request that both audio and video components of Zoom be turned on for each resident routinely. As for those board members who wish to block their own video access, residents could also block themselves from view if preferred. Used correctly, Zoom could go a long way towards dispelling the notion that board members do not show respect to residents attending meetings. Mere constant negating comments and at times nonverbal communication by board members, such as shaking one's head no in disagreement to residents as they are speaking, has been observed. Just like you, people want to have their viewpoints heard and actually considered. With Zoom, you could ask questions of residents and interact with your fellow board members on topics presented by residents. There is always room for improvement in communication. Zoom use during board meetings can be an efficient tool to better listening as well as having thoughtful discussion if interested. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Catherine Freshley.
Thank you for making the connection. Actually, I agree with basically what Sharon had just commented on. I participated over the last year in these kind of Zoom meetings, at least 10 a month. And it is convenient, you can get a lot done. But you need to have all the participants who are willing to participate on the video and so that they can make their comments and raise their hands. But I really want to congratulate also the employees that were just recognized. I think that's important that VMS does this and that you all provide that time for them to do. I'm a little concerned though about the topic 13 on the agenda, which you referred to earlier on. Both, it's going forward relative to the insurance issue, and I'm concerned because there's no document for us to review. What are you gonna revise the whole CC&Rs, or are we gonna have an amendment? What you provided in the agenda does not indicate that it's only an amendment. And if it's only an amendment, then there's no need to even refer to the bylaws because the bylaws don't address insurance. So it is a confusing message. If you're talking about an amendment to the 59 CC&Rs, that's great because this is something that many of us have advocated. But present the amendment so we can see it prior to you even scheduling the election. In your proposed calendar, I also observe that you have 2 town halls, and that's wonderful. However, you've got them spaced out so that you have a town hall by the board, then you mail out your ballots, and a week after the ballots have been mailed is a town hall for the residents. Why would the residents be speaking after the ballots have already been received and many of them possibly voted? You need to have the conversation on the amendment before the voting takes place and before the ballots are mailed. It could be easily done by combining those two so that instead of having separate town halls, you could have two town halls with both residents and the board, such as you're doing right now, so that you can have a good conversation. And if you want to limit it to an hour, then you have 2 of them, you do it 2 weeks. When we were going through the transition, we had many town halls because that's the important part of communicating any issue to the community. Let them participate because your goal is to represent us. You're not there as dictators. You're there to represent the community, and that's what we all expect. And I realize the challenges that you have to have adequate insurance coverage. And you can work, but you should be working with GRF and the other.
President Parsons, the 3 minutes have expired.
Thank you.
I'm just about.
Thank you, Catherine, for your comments. Okay. We'll wait a minute and then we'll answer.
Actually, President Parsons, we still have 4 more comments that were sent in.
Okay, go ahead.
The first is from resident Laureen Rodmaker at 2397-2H. I would like to make a request to the Third Mutual Board to be considered at this next meeting. I live at 2397 via Mariposa West, Unit 2H. My building is currently being painted. I've been informed that the black cast iron gate in front of my front door will not be painted because it is not original, but has been replaced. This must have happened long before I bought the unit back in 2013. The gate is very old and it looks terrible. I'd like to ask that the paint crew paint my gate while they're here. I would gladly pay to have this done. This could be done very easily by the paint crew since they have all the necessary equipment and expertise. I have been told by resident services that the Third Mutual Board made the decision not to paint any gate that is not original. And so I have to ask the Third Board to consider my request to have the paint crew paint my gate at my expense. Clearly, when people come to look at any unit in this building that's for sale, you will see that some gates look very good, but other gates are old and terrible. This could adversely impact their interest in buying a unit in that building. I would appreciate your attention to this request. Thank you. The second comment is from resident Merle Entner at 3072 Via Serena. I've been a resident since 2008, and I have two separate issues to discuss. One, I'd like clarification on the other reasons for the insurance increases. Is it due to the fire danger in Laguna Woods from the nearby hills? If this is the reason, is there a way to clear the area of burnable material, also called weed abatement, to point that it is no longer a threat? If this area is not city property, can the city mitigate the situation and find a solution? Point number two, assuming that the residents' dues and Third Mutual are all the same, is there a way to adjust the association dues so that the lower value property managers pay lower dues than the higher valued managers? It does not seem fair that $1 million home with a two-car garage would pay the same dues as a multi-story carport property. It's troublesome to believe that the maintenance costs, including landscape and building maintenance, are equal. From the website, it was stated that breaking out the cost of residential units would be too expensive. There may be a way of doing it by attach a numerical label to each property. Please give me a call to clarify further. I want to take the time to thank you for your devoted time to make this village a great place, and a special thank you for the life-saving vaccine. The third comment is from Bob Hatch at 5064. The election held 11-3 was troublesome to many of our members. It came as a surprise. They objected to the short notice prior to the election. They were asked to vote on a number of unrelated issues, but requiring only a single vote. The ballot was accompanied by reasons only to vote yes. There was no opportunity for member rebuttal prior to commencement of voting. There was no clarification of additions or changes from the existing CC&Rs. Members were frustrated by the difficulty of communication with fellow members. Channel 6, the Globe, and the Village Breeze are great means of communication, but the use is dominated by the board. As a result, all of these failures, many members voted prior to being fully informed on some substantive matters. Going forward in a similar election, I would suggest that, number one, send proposed documents to members well in advance of the election. Number two, make clear any changes or additions to the documents and why. Number three, include both reasons to vote yes, along with reasons to vote no. Number four, allow greater access to communication resources that are paid by the members. Number five, mail the ballot to members following a reasonable time for members to understand what they're voting for. These suggestions may make it harder for the board to achieve the results they wish, but it will greatly increase their credibility. As one of our members succinctly stated, the board's purpose is to serve the needs of its members, not to rule. And the final comment is from Susan Smallwood at 3033. First, the leadership and legal counsel continue to disregard the needs of the residents. Once again, you've scheduled another ballot initiative without any discussion as requested by the special meeting of the membership. We are a senior community comprising of active and not so active adults. We need time to fully understand exactly what it is you're proposing without pushing through another losing and expensive ballot. We need new leadership and new legal counsel. I and those who requested the special meeting no longer have faith in the failing leadership at this time for a new leader and definitely new legal counsel. You say the high legal fees are due to the high number of residents suing Third Mutual. Why now? Is it time for new leadership and legal counsel who has an understanding of when it is time to settle versus continuing to push or cause unnecessary legal battles? It's time to serve the community and not lead with an iron fist. Lastly, I had lived at 3033 for over 10 years with not one balcony clutter violation. Now that I have a tenant who has only lived in my unit for 2 months, the tenant has received a clutter violation for the same balcony as I leased it out furnished. When did green plants, patio furniture, and a few decorations become clutter? I'm feeling discriminated and harassed with this false claim. Just drive down the long driveway and tell me, has anyone else received a clutter violation? And that is the end of our comments.
Okay, thank you very much. I would ask the board if any of you would like to chime in on responding to these, feel free. First is to Jules Xylon. Anybody have any comments to his comments and questions? I will say one thing, Jules, you were given time to speak. We actually called ahead of time and did a test with you to allow you to speak, and you did have time on TV. So I think that what you keep bringing up is no longer applicable. As far as proxies, you're told that we did not accept proxies, and we talked about this even during the time that you were trying to speak. So I don't consider that to be a problem. As far as CC&R revision, we have gone through. We tried to make it very clear what we were doing. We had meetings on this. We had town hall meetings on this. As far as I'm concerned, there was time given for people to actually understand and ask questions. Granted, it came quickly, but in life, things happen quickly. And even so now, on our new initiative, things are of the essence. Time is of the essence. We cannot sit back and wait for everybody to be educated if they will not come forward and learn on their own. Okay, any other comments to Jules? Okay, Carol Moore, I note that you have made several comments here. However, you failed to realize that we had different meetings. We had town hall meetings. We had other ways of people getting in communication. They elected not to in some cases. We also have contacted people who voted no, that admitted that they didn't read anything. So I'm sorry, but it's a responsibility of each individual here to stay up with what is going on, ask questions, and we were transparent with getting out information. As far as a lack of direction, here again, I say we do have direction, and you need to be part of the process if that's what you want to see. You can't stay in the background and then accuse people of not doing something that you should have been part of to begin with. Any comments from the board to Carol Moore? Go ahead, Robert.
Yes, Carol Moore talked, one of the things she talked about was the order of events. And she felt that we were, my phrase, not her phrase, putting the cart before the horse, that we should have the wording of the actual ballot available to the membership before we schedule the election. As I said in my comments previously today, we will expect to have the wording of the ballot available next week. The membership will not be receiving formally the materials until the end of May. So we expect to have the opportunity for the membership, people like Carol Moore and others, to see the wording of the ballot. And if they want to then have input into the wording of the ballot, it's not finalized at that stage. We expect to share that with the people next week.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, to Karen Shore. She talked about having meetings in person and continuing Zoom meetings. And I believe that Debbie has a comment here.
Yeah, I think that that's something that's obviously, we've all adjusted to Zoom life, and it works well. And we haven't had any formal discussions regarding this, but there is an SB 391 that's going to, that's before the California Association, it's part of the legislative committee, about keeping them, meetings conducted via Zoom. So right now there's an executive order that authorizes it, but yes, there's going to be a bill before the House that's going to, put it into law. So we will probably more than likely have Zoom meetings available for the foreseeable future if this law passes. But I am 100% in agreement that we should maintain a Zoom presence and allow residents to come via Zoom. Personally, you know, I value the ability to use Zoom as a board member. We have a tremendous amount. Not only are we on these board meetings, but we also are on multiple committees with GRF, and so you know, it does save a lot of time to be able to attend meetings via Zoom. Does it lose some of the personal touch? Of course it does, but we do get a lot of work done, and so I to Karen's point, I don't think Zoom's going away anytime soon. So we hear you. Thank you.
Okay, any other responses? Okay, on to Catherine Freshley. I think we've talked about continuance of Zoom. On insurance, she talked about an amendment or a change to the CC&Rs. Whether it's a change embedded in the CC&Rs or an amendment, it still has to be recorded. And as Director Muchnick mentioned earlier, that will be out for people to see very soon. Okay, other comments to Catherine? Go ahead, Robert.
Catherine Presley also addressed the issue of working with United and GRF in terms of the insurance issue. And she needs to understand that that's really no longer possible, that we have our own broker in Gallagher. They have a different broker in the company by the name of Marsh. And we're actually going two very different directions in terms of insurance. So partnering with them is really no longer possible.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, thank you. On to, I believe it's Lorraine Rademacher, and she was talking about painting of her gate. Jeff, as far as I understand, she can request this under chargeable services. Is that correct?
Yes, and Steve, with that, our painting supervisor is reaching out to...
We can barely hear you.
Can you hear me?
Jeff, we can barely hear you.
So, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So I just wanted to mention that our Ernesto and our paint supervisor will be reaching out to Ms. Rodemaker and contact her with regards to the gate.
Okay. Also, she asks when the rec rooms in the three-story buildings will be reopened, and who's making this decision, and how will it be communicated to residents?
Yeah.
You want to take that on too?
If you want to go through the others, and then I was going to do that as part of my CEO report.
Okay. Any other comments to Lorraine? Okay. On to Merrill. Talked about insurance and about the fire hazards in the area. Whether the city can address that or not. Actually, we are in a fire zone according to insurance. And that's not something I believe we can weigh in on to change, other than try to do everything we can, such as move the fire line out. It used to be 30 feet. We're trying to get it out to 100 feet, and that's in the wilderness areas, so that the fire will have to bridge a gap there and just basically have dirt in between. As well as we're changing some plants out in an area close to that zone, the fire zone, so that they're non-flammable. There are some other changes that are being considered. So I hope this answers your question on that. Does anybody else have a response to Merrill? Okay, on to Bob Hatch. It talks about short time in the prior election, about getting things out. There's one thing that I picked up on. And yes, it was a short time. Yes, this is also a short time. However, it is something that needs to be taken care of. We have to move quickly on this because our new broker is going out soon to the industry to find out what's available and work from there. So we're going to have to be able to tell them soon how much we're looking for and how much we can afford. Okay, Robert?
For Mr. Hatch, while the time frame at this point is still somewhat short from maybe what he would like, it's only a single issue. It's going to be a single statement on insurance, and that's it. It's not going to be a lot to digest. There's not going to be a lot of controversy, I think, related to this issue the same way there was before. So while, yes, it's a short time period, I think, Mr. Hatch, once you see the wording and people have an opportunity to weigh in on the wording, it'll go very quickly because it's a very simple issue. If we don't approve this, we're facing very extreme rates of insurance for next year, and that's what the board is now trying to help avoid. So thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, on to Susan Smallwood. We have talked about the time to understand things. She thinks that there's a disregard from the board standpoint to educate the people. This is now the second time around, Susan, and I think people already have an inkling of what our problem is with insurance. So there'll be other information coming out, but we are not disregarding that duty that we have to educate people, let them know what's happening. As far as clutter, perhaps it would be good if you got the new landscape regulation or directive and read through it. This has been in existence for some time now. It could be that your lessee was just picked up on some way of seeing how much clutter there was and reported. So I would ask you to get a hold of the landscape manual, go through that, and then if you have any questions, come back to us. Okay, Robert?
Two things in relation to Ms. Smallwood. Number one, most of the time when clutter issues arise, it's because there's a complainant, another member of the village, another member resident has called to complain. I don't know if that's the case in this situation or not, but that's typically the way we deal with clutter issues is when we get a complaint. In terms of the issue of our legal fees, the board has been very careful in trying to clarify, and Ms. Smallwood continues to conflate issues. When we have the legal fees announced, it needs to be known by everybody that those legal fees include what we have to pay for our share of VMS's legal fees. It also includes, it does not include reimbursements we get from insurance companies or from litigation where we're successful in terms of, prevailing in a case. So in fact, the dollar amount associated with our legal fees that's reported is a lump sum and doesn't reflect various things that impact that. And so she misunderstands and misrepresents the actual cost of our legal fees, which are considerably less than what she constantly states.
Okay, any responses to anyone by the board? Okay, Jeff or Siobhan, anything you want to add?
You didn't have anything yet.
Okay. Thank you so much. Okay, we'll go on to CEO, COO report, item 10.
Thank you, President Parsons, and to the board and to the members here. I have a update on several different topics, and then I'll turn it over to Siobhan. I'm going to start with your question, Steve, with regards to Garden Villas and the rec rooms. And we are anticipating at this point in time in the management of Third and working with all of our operations that those rec rooms won't open until such time as our clubhouses fully open operational-wise. We are, as you know, to our residents, everybody, we are in the orange category right now, orange tier. We are moving towards the yellow tier. Good news is that our cases, as reported yesterday, are down to 63, only 63 cases in Orange County, 0 deaths, which was really good information. And our tests are still above 6,000 to 10,000 tests going on a daily basis. So what that means is that 2 of the 3 critical categories have now reached the yellow. We are only 1 category shy, and that is the cases per 100,000. It still needs to drop down 1 more. It's at 3 right now, and it needs to get below 2 or 2 or below. The other element that is driving moving to the different tiers is the number of vaccinations that are occurring statewide, countywide, and also certainly the vaccines that we've been able to do here at the village. So again, I just want to indicate that right now the GBA's rec rooms will stay closed until such time as we open up our clubhouses. The governor has indicated that he wants to see the state of California reopened with no restrictions as far as the usage of facilities. He's indicated that full reopening would occur sometime after June 15th. So I think that is a time frame that individuals who are interested in that capability of our rec rooms and the GBA recreation rooms, probably a June timeframe is something that we would be reevaluating that. And that's it for COVID, so those are really good news. And with regards to the community of Laguna Woods, which we're a part of, our numbers have been real stable. For the whole month of April, we've only seen an increase of only 4 cases for the whole month, so that's really, really good news. And only 1 additional fatality in the whole last 3 weeks. So again, that's the whole community of Laguna Woods, not just the village, but again, very stable rates, and that's great to hear because the more stability, the curve goes down, and reopening activities can occur more and more. And as you know, with regards to going into the orange category, we were able to open some additional facilities in the last couple of weeks through our recreation department. At your agenda prep meeting and everything, you had asked for a number of updates, and so I wanted to give you a couple of them real quickly. The first one is an update with regards to our $10,000 escrow hold deposit that we put in place. And the purpose of that escrow hold was to allow escrows to close. We were in a situation where our policy was you couldn't close an escrow until every moisture intrusion, damage restoration, manner alteration issue had been resolved. We had a number of people who were going through the process of trying to close in a very short time frame, 30 days or less. What we realized is that we independently could not go through and make all of the corrections and get all of that information into our system and make sure that we were protecting the mutual. So we put in place, in talking with the real estate brokers, and had a meeting with them, and what we came up with was this kind of interim policy of putting a $10,000 hold. It's been effective. We're working, I met with a couple other brokers the other day. We just need to put some more documentation. As you know, their packets are real thick, and they just wanted to make sure that their sellers and their buyers had a little bit more documentation in that package to understand the $10,000 hold and how that was getting paid back and how that's working. So we're putting that together, and but the process has been working. The cases are averaging about 10 cases a month where people are going in and asking for that fast track early escrow closure. So we've been it's been working from the deposit point of view. The average for January and February is about 35 days to get the money back to that individual or release the money back. We have had cases, the most extreme of that, we had a $10,000, as you know, all of them are $10,000. We did have a $10,000 hold in which $9,800 had to be paid back to the mutual. In that case, there was only a release of $200. So that's an example of why we did it, because if we didn't have that kind of a deposit system set up, you would be eating that kind of a cost, and we don't want to put that burden on the mutuals. So it's effective. We're going to keep evaluating, because if we get down to the point where we're only having 1 or 2 a month, then we may evaluate just eliminating that and going back to our original resolution proposal, which is basically you can't close escrow until everything's cleared up. But if all of those things are getting cleared that quickly, then we can meet most of the escrow closures, even the 30-day ones. But positive right now, and again, The only ramification that I ran into recently was, and I had a good dialogue with a couple of brokers, was to get them a little bit more of a document that they could put in their packets. So that's an update on the $10,000 escrow. Excuse me. The next item I wanted to mention was we were notified through the FCC and other agencies that the 949 area code, which we are part of, is going to require moving to every resident using 949 or calling a 949 number is going to have to dial all 10 digits. So instead of just the 7 digits that you normally call inside your area code, you're also going to have to dial the 949 to start it. So you're going to have to use all 10. This is a requirement that is and will go into place starting in April. It is up to the individual carriers to implement this. So depending if you're AT&T or Verizon or any of the other carriers, it's best that residents contact their carriers and go on their websites and see what kind of transition time frame. It's all required to happen by October 24th of this year. So everybody by October 24th will be calling that 10-digit number. Our carrier here at the Village has indicated that they're going to start as soon as April 24th, making that transition. So when you're calling the numbers here at the Village, that you're going to be using that 10-digit number, i.e. the 949 to begin with, but they are not making it so it's so mandatory. They're going to phase it in so people can still do both, but they do want to make that transition quickly, so they're going to be starting here at the Village with regards to our phone numbers on the 24th. With regards to the budget schedule, one of the things that was asked, we have a tentative budget schedule, and I wanted to just mention relative to the third board, we have a schedule for you starting in June, the landscape review. That would be Thursday, June 3rd, and maintenance review would be Wednesday, June 2nd. So those are back-to-back. M&C review on the 2nd of June and landscape review on the 3rd of June. Then as we go through that process and you review that, then we come into the business plan review, which is Friday, 16th of July. And then we follow up with the televised business plan review, which would be scheduled, tentatively scheduled right now for August 12th or 3rd. And then finally, your business plan adoption would be in September. So those are the tentative dates, and we're going to get, obviously, our staff is putting our draft budgets together right now, so we'll be working closely with you, Steve, and your board with regards to review of those processes. We're also working with GRF and scheduling the capital project review, and that date has not been set yet because we probably were going to add an additional couple of meetings with regards to capital review this year, as well as some of the operational elements that are under GRF. I think that's it for me. I'm going to turn it over to Siobhan. She has a little bit of a few updates to give you as well, and I can answer any questions on those after that.
Thank you, Jeff. Honorable President, members of the board, I have a few announcements for you this morning, please. I want to remind residents that the annual spring mailing will be coming soon. The mailing date will be this Friday, April 23rd. It is expected to be received by residents on Monday, April 26th or Tuesday, April 27th. As a reminder, this package includes the summary audited 2020 financials for 3rd and GRF, the Code Red contact form, an opt-out authorization form for members who wish to make their contact information inaccessible by the general membership pursuant to the Civil Code, a schedule of monetary traffic penalties, and many other informational materials for resident use. The National Prescription Take-Back Day is coming up, and the City of Laguna Woods is hosting a National Prescription Take-Back Day event. It will be held Saturday, April 24th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Laguna Woods City Hall. This is an opportunity to dispose of unwanted and expired prescription medication. It is free and anonymous. No sharps, marijuana, or pressure canisters will be accepted. For more information, call 714-647-4133. The City of Laguna Hills will be holding a public hearing about the Laguna Hills Mall site. This will be held April 27th at 7 p.m. at the Laguna Hills Community Center located at 25555 Alicia Parkway. City Council will consider the adoption of a development agreement to modify the previously approved Five Lagunas project. And this will help continue to redevelop the 68-acre parcel with a mixed-use retail, office, and residential project. Interested persons will be given an opportunity to speak at the public hearing, or written communication may be submitted to the city clerk at 24035 El Toro Road, Laguna Hills, California, 92653. Also, a reminder that carport cleaning is underway and will continue through the end of April. Visit lagunawoodsvillage.com to see the schedule and to learn when your carport will be cleaned. Additionally, GVA underground garage cleaning will be coming up. The General Services Department will begin scrubbing Gardenville underground garages on May 11th. All garages will be cleaned by the end of May. The department is finalizing the schedule, and then we'll be working with the Media and Communications Department to transmit that schedule to all interested residents. And the Recreation and Special Events Department reminds residents that bingo is now open. Register now to play bingo in the back patio of Clubhouse 2 on Tuesdays. Doors open at 1:45 and bingo starts at 2 p.m. A fee of $10 for 10 games is due at Clubhouse 2 on the day of play. Reservations may be made through ActiveNet. And a reminder that masks are required. That concludes my presentation this morning. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comments by the board members? Okay, we'll proceed on to item 11, the consent calendar.
Steve, I raised my hand. Yes. I have a question. I have a question. Yeah, I'm on the corner side. Can you see me now?
No.
Okay. My question is for Jeff with a follow-up, depends on the answer. The national average on the COVID vaccination for 65 years and older is at 65%. Village for the vaccination of 65 years or older, or population here? Do we have any number?
I don't have a number, but with regards to the vaccination process, we have been involved now with everybody 55 and over. In fact, we are having our last vaccination clinic coming up Saturday the 24th. And we have a very small number of people still that need to get vaccinated. And this is really for anybody 55 and over. It's really anybody 18 and over, because we do have some individuals that are under 55 that do live here in the village. So it would capture everybody that's 18 and above. And they were asked to submit their information via our website this last week. And so we have all that data, and we'll be getting the information and the scheduling out and confirmation on the tomorrow or the next day for Saturday. So we look forward to finishing that up. And it was really at the efforts by Memorial Care to help us out in getting this last exercise so that we can hit just about everybody in the village. And it's great. We have a number of people in the village that got vaccinated, certainly through our program, but we had just as many people get vaccinated outside using Rite Aid, using CVS, using Orange County, and all of their facilities. So it's great that we have such a high percentage in the village that have been vaccinated.
Thank you, Jeff. The follow-up is that because, that the statistics going to help a lot with some of the internal decisions. We have activities within the village that the guests do not come and it's only members. Percent vaccination reaching the herd immunity, which help us internally to rethink about some of the reopening of activities that only members use, not the guests that coming in. And if they have some statistics that can help us to make some decision in that regard for the reopening some of the activities that guests are not welcome. So that was my point, that how we're going to do that independently of the state. We may be able to do something internally based on our own herd immunity if we have the statistics available. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, going on to item 11, the consent calendar. Do I hear a motion for acceptance of the consent calendar? Okay, Lynn and Annie, second.
I move that we accept the consent calendar.
Okay. Any discussion? If not, if we don't hear any comments on this, we'll consider this approved by consent. Okay. Item 12, unfinished business. We have none at this time. On to new business. And I'll turn it over to Director Jarrett on the motion.
Okay. We have a recommendation here to approve the proposed 2021 special election schedule on the restatement and amendment of the third Laguna Hills Mutual Covenant conditions and restrictions.
Lynn, we can just barely hear you.
Okay. All right, let me try to get closer here. We have a recommendation to approve the proposed 2021 special election schedule on the restatement and amendment of the third Laguna Hills Mutual Covenant conditions and restrictions. That's all 59 versions of the CC&Rs and the bylaws pertaining to insurance in the community, and appoint Unilect Corporation as the inspector of election for the special election. The proposed election schedule for a special election reflects the timeline required by Civil Code for a special election for the purpose of approving a restatement of the CC&R and amended bylaws for the sole purpose of revising the insurance requirements. Key milestones in the attached election schedule that we've been provided include the general notice, or it actually includes the calendar. The calendar, the milestones are general notice of ballot information, May the 7th. Town hall for ballot information, May the 14th. Mail ballot package to residents, May 28th. Town hall for member comments, June 7th. Ballots due June 28th. Tabulation of ballots, June the 29th. I'd like to make a motion that we approve this special election schedule and Inspector of Election Services.
Okay, is there a second? Annie seconds it. Okay, discussion? Robert?
Yes. In listening to Catherine Freshley's comments earlier, I think she makes a very valid point about the town hall meeting for member comments being held after the ballot package has already been mailed. What I'd like to suggest for consideration by this board is that we actually, instead of having the town hall meeting for member comments on the 7th of June, we leave that there, but we add a second one. And that second one should come right after the town hall meeting for ballot information on 5/14, say the next week, 5/21, that we have a town hall meeting for member comments based upon the ballot information that we release. Then we leave the town hall meeting for member comments on 6/7, so that once people receive their ballot packages, there'll be a lot of other people that may have questions then, because that's the only way they got information was when they received the ballot package. So I think Catherine Freshley's point is a good one. And I think my suggestion is the way to address it is to add a second town hall member meeting for comments. That would be on the 21st of May.
Okay, other comments?
Okay, this is Reza.
Go ahead, and then Debbie.
Yeah, I really support what Robert said. That's excellent. After we do all of that, I really plead to the membership that please do not use this item as a political issue and to make points. If we are not successful in getting your insurance in order, it's going to impose undue hardship on some of our members that they might not be able to, handle. So please look at this issue as for the whole community, not a political issue, not to set scoring the points. Let's look at this, educate yourself if you don't know a lot about the insurance issue here as soon as you can. Our window of time is short, and we have to get this done in order to provide reasonable services to our membership. Other than that, a lot of people are going to have a lot of undue financial pressure on them, which the failure of this community is not a good thing to do. So please look at that way and be part of the process rather than just opposing without, any merit. That's my plea to everyone.
Hey, Debbie?
I just want to go on to what Robert said, and I want to make sure before we vote that we redo those dates accordingly so that they're very clear as to when these meetings are. I think the more information that goes out via the emails, mail, and town hall meetings to clarify what this is about, it really, I don't think we can have too many town hall meetings about making sure that people understand, which also goes to Reza's point, that we have to be clear about what will happen with this ballot, both voting it in and why we're doing it and what it's about. So before I want to vote on this, I want to make sure that those dates that we got on the staff report we got are clearly shown to us before we vote.
Okay, Debbie, do you not have a copy of these?
I do, but I want the dates that Robert just mentioned. I want to make sure that we add that into those dates that show, I mean, right now it's written with those things. I want to make sure that what we vote on is the actual date. So to add in whatever Robert's date is that he said about the other town hall meeting.
Okay, and to clarify, Robert, what you're doing is adding another town hall meeting on May 21st, correct?
Remember comments.
Yeah.
Member comments.
Steve,
Okay.
Karen Shore has her hands up.
Just a second, Reza. But that is the only thing that you're actually changing.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, so Reza, and then we'll come back to Debbie.
No, I said Karen Shore has her hands up in the, in the gallery, so I don't know how you're going to handle that.
Okay, thanks. Debbie, and then we'll do that.
So we're mailing the ballot package on May 28th, but we're having a town hall before we mail for members?
Yes.
We need to don't we have to have something after the fact so people can ask us questions?
We do have one scheduled for the 7th of June.
Okay, why is that not on this list I have?
It's on the package I received.
Okay, I found it. Sorry. Okay, I'm good. Thank you. I'm good.
Okay, any other board comments? Okay, Lynn?
I just want to say that and express the wish that we need to get this, we can't push this schedule out any further. That's what I want to say. Because of the budget, we have to know what we're going to be doing with the budget. It's very, very important. We cannot push this date out any further, so that's what I want the members to know. Thank you.
Okay, Robert?
Steve, formally, we have a motion on the floor that was moved and seconded, moved by Lynn, seconded by Annie. I made a motion to amend that original motion, but nobody seconded it. So we would have to have somebody second it, and then we'd have to vote to amend the original motion that Lynn and Annie made.
Okay, Debbie, are you seconding it? Okay, she's seconding it. Okay, any other discussion on the amendment? And that would be to add another town hall meeting for member comments on the 21st of May. Okay, if there's no objection, we'll consider that to be approved. Any objection? Okay, so that would be added to the list of dates. Okay? Any other comment? Okay, let's go to Karen Shore.
Okay, I'm unmuted now. I just want to ask a question. I hope I get a direct answer. What I heard today was that proxies were not accepted at a prior special meeting. I would like to ask, and I've read the bylaws. I know that proxies are allowed in our election system. I'd like to ask and get an answer. Will you accept proxies on this upcoming election?
Karen, the reason that it didn't hold value was it was not a vote of the entire membership. And in that case, you have to have a vote of the general membership to make anything binding on the board. That's what was stated at the time.
That sounds debatable, whether a special election follows under that guideline, what you're stating. But can you please give me an answer regarding this upcoming election of the entire third board and whether you will accept proxies as our bylaws allow?
No, because a vote of the membership has to be by ballot, and it has to be open to the entire membership. So proxies are not allowed. That's been stated over and over by our legal counsel.
It's not how I interpret it, but I'll accept what you say unless we want to go discuss that further at a later time.
Fine. Okay, Debbie?
I'd just like to ask a question. Once member comments are over, isn't that the end of it?
Yeah, so we're debating this specific topic, and people can chime in their comments at that time. Okay?
We do have,
we have a motion on the floor.
2 other member comments.
Okay, go ahead. You need to tell me a little bit faster, please.
We have LE. I'll ask them to state their name and manner as they join.
Okay.
Hello, do you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, please.
I'm Lalaine Isaacs. I have a comment about our insurance issue. If you remember, Director Parsons, I had questions about our insurance issue, and on both times, in the email in December and in January, I asked for the Duff and Phelps report so I can explain to members what the valuation is based on. Secondly, I asked for the council's rationale of the analysis why we cannot buy insurance as an affiliate. And I'd like to see what the cost saving is. At the time, we were told that Fannie Mae does not allow buying insurance on the aggregate. However, United, as I understand it, and GRF, who have separate lawyers, are going to buy insurance as an aggregate. Therefore, you have 2 attorneys with different legal counsel opinion than our current counsel. So I would think that we, just like if you are sick and you question a doctor's view, because our insurance costs so much, the members who contribute to these dues, that is our pot, should be given a chance to have a second legal opinion. That is all I'm saying. Thank you for your consideration. And I do hope that when you amend the insurance statement on pages 28 and 30, there is a language that is contrary to practice. It has the corporation buying insurance for common areas and units. And units, as defined on page 6 of our CCNR, refers to the property that is owned by the owners. And to the best of my knowledge, that is contrary to current practice. Homeowners must buy insurance for their own property, and that is from the paint inwards, but including the doors and windows, contrary to what Director Muchnick said in an October 22nd town hall. Even if your windows are original, owners are responsible for that replacement. That's all I'm trying to say. Just make sure your language protects the mutual. Remove anything about the corporation insuring the units. There's 2 places there. All you need to do is delete that segment. And the thing about how we should insure, that can be up for discussion. I just want to make one last point. When you
3
buy
minutes have
insurance-
expired.
Can you let me finish, please? Because this is an important point.
Really make it quick, please.
Very quick. When you buy insurance without knowing the probable maximum loss, which is an indication of the probability of catastrophic loss, that is like saying, I'm signing you a blank check, you tell me the rationale later. Secondly, if you show the membership what the premiums are for 1x to 10x of the probable maximum loss, the arguments over whether we should insure for 1x or 10x might be moot, because the insurance for 10x PML is not 10 times the insurance for 1x PML. That was what I was trying to convey to Robert Muchnick, Mr. last December, but I got nowhere. Thank you very much for your time and for considering my view.
Okay, thank you very much. The PML, as you know, is 140 million. Okay, and that's what we are working with as a basis to go forward. As far as an aggregate, we have talked with our consultant, and right now there is no such thing that we can hook on to, because there's such a variance between different locations. Like if we tried to do something with the folks up in San Francisco at Rossmore, they're under a total different concept for insurance than we are. And the insurance companies look at them different than they do us. So we're mixing apples and oranges if we try to go together with them. Are there any other comments?
Yes, we have a comment from Carol Moore, and then we have a comment from Jules Zalon.
Okay, then we've got to move on.
Understood.
Sorry that your name doesn't come up and you can't click unmute until your name comes up. So if we delay, it's because we weren't able to speak. I first want to thank you for changing the dates. The May 28th date really is helpful. But I have one question to make certain we understand. Number one, it's my understanding the first public comment is May the 21st, and then May the 28th is going to be the mailing. If that's correct, that's really 7 days. Are the ballots already printed on May the 21st? What I'm trying to say, and I think you heard me say that earlier, we want to make certain that the public gets their input before you print something. We don't want this to happen again, that it winds up being the other way. And I think what Leilene was referring to in affiliation, I don't think we were ever thinking we would affiliate with another organization, but we would affiliate with GRF. And because of the way it's stated on the Fannie Mae website that we could affiliate, we did hear you can't. We never heard why you cannot, and I'm not asking you to do it right now. But see, these are kind of questions that really deserve a good discussion so that the community understands that. All we heard was you won't. We don't understand why. So these all should come at the public meeting. That's fine. It's letting everyone understand. We understand the immediacy of it. We understand that it's important, but I think there is a failure in real communication on some of these issues. But thank you again for changing that date.
Okay, yeah, good points. And one thing you need to understand is that for the first 425 million of the current policy, GRF and United pay their portion of that. United does not want to keep up with their portion. They are going separate. They got their own insurance company working, and they are trying to come up with what they think is an acceptable amount for insurance. So that we have to deal with separately, because if they're going to pull away, which they are doing, we have to adjust what we're doing. Instead of going on a joint type policy, we're going to have to bear the burden of our own policy out of our own pockets. Okay, Robert?
Yes, to address one of Ms. Moore's points, as I indicated earlier, and I'll reiterate, we expect to have the description of the ballot information available to the membership next week. It's not going to be, we're not going to wait until the town hall meeting on the 14th of May to first release the ballot information. The ballot information will be out there and people will be able to comment on it. And by the time we get to the town hall meeting, we're hoping to basically have firmed up the final wording of the ballot before that. And really just to share with people at that point what's going on with the ballot and the election process, for those who are not as fully informed as some of the people who attend these meetings are. But yeah, the people have access to the ballot information long before the town hall meeting.
Okay, any other comments? Okay.
We have the final member comment from Mr. Zalon.
Grant, is he connected?
I do see that he is connected.
Okay, is he muted then?
He is still muted.
Jules, please unmute yourself. Craig, you're muted. Jules, Grant, if he's unable to communicate, would you ask him to forward his comment for board consideration?
Would you like him to email it, or like place it in a? How would you like him to forward the comment?
If he can put it in the chat box, we can work with that. All right. I believe if he can talk to Eileen, you could give it to her there.
I believe Mr. Zelling has been unmuted.
Jules, are you on? Jules, can you hear me? Okay, we can't wait much longer here. We've got to move on with other business. So if you'll send in his comment, and it will be given to the board for consideration. In the meantime, we have a motion on the floor and a second to go ahead with the ballot initiative schedule as was amended to add May 21st is another town hall meeting for comments and questions from the residents. Okay. Motion's been made and second. I'll call for the question here. Is there anybody in opposition to that? Okay, hearing no opposition, that passes. It's adopted. Okay, moving on, we'll go to item 14, committee reports. First to the Finance Committee, Director Muchler.
Okay, thank you, Director Parsons. Grant, if you'd put up the very first slide, please, I would appreciate it.
Yes, one moment, please.
Take your time. Thank you, sir. I'm pleased to share with you the figures we have for the month of February 2021. Now that we are starting to share the figures for 2021, you'll notice that we provide a 3-month comparison on most of our charts. We're comparing 2 months, January and February, to the previous month of December 2020. In a few instances, we're still working on the closing figures for the year 2020, and will most likely not have final figures for another month. And we'll wait for the slide so we can get started. Clearly, we're having a lot of technical difficulties today. Okay, go ahead and go to the next slide, Grant, please. Thank you. All right, this slide depicts income for Third Mutual for the last 3 months, December, January, and February. The figure for December, $33,164,000, represents the total assessment revenue for the full year of 2020. Assessment revenue year to date at the end of February is $5,767,000, which is just about double the income for January, which was $2,883,000. As expected, we continue to be right on track month over month for assessment revenue. If one was to multiply this by 6, the January and February combination, we would project that the expected assessment revenue for 2021 would be $34,602,000, as I said, which is right on track for the total assessment for the revenue for 2020, with the addition of the $20 per man per month increase that was instituted for 2021. Non-assessment revenue is a negative $50,000 for the month of February. This is explained by the results of unrealized loss of $339,000 on AFS investments, an unfavorable variance due to adverse conditions for bond investment during the reporting period. A monthly entry is made to reflect investment market conditions which fluctuate. Adding together the assessment revenue and the non-assessment revenue for January and February, our total revenue is $5,685,000. Now, looking at the set of bars, second from the right of the slide, for the cumulative months of January and February, third had $4,666,000 in total expenses. Looking at the bar graph on the far right of the chart, Third Mutual had a net revenue of $1,019,000 for the months of January and February. This is up an additional $373,000 from just the previous months of January alone. Next slide, please. This slide represents data for the operating fund only for the 3 months ending February. Looking at the bar graphs on the far left of the chart, assessment revenue over the most recent 28-day period, February, was $1,747,000, exactly the same as the previous month of January, and in keeping with what we expect each month. Now, shifting your gaze to the second set of bar graphs from the left, non-assessment revenue increased by $117,000 for the month of February, giving us a total non-assessment revenue for 2021 so far of $222,000. Now, looking at this set of bar graphs third from the right, Third Mutual had a grand total revenue in the operating fund of $1,865,000 for the month of February. Adding January and February together, total revenue for the operating fund only for 2021 is, as you can see, $3,717,000. The bar graphs second from the right side of the chart, total expenses during the same period for the operating fund of January-February was $2,920,000. Subtracting total expenses year-to-date from total revenue year-to-date takes us to the bar graph on the far right, which leaves us now with a positive variance of $797,000 for the 2 months ending February. That's our operating surplus at the moment. Next slide, please. This slide compares our actual revenues and expenses to what was originally budgeted. As can be seen from the far left side of the slide, actual and budgeted assessment revenue was, as one would expect, the same for year-to-date ending 2/28/21. Looking at the non-assessment revenue, the second set of bar graphs from the left, the actual is in red, the budget is in green, while the variance is in yellow. The non-assessment revenue had a negative variance of $442,000 of actual over budgeted for year-to-date ending February. The negative variance is again due in large part to the variance I discussed in the previous slide with the adverse conditions for the bond investments. Now, looking at the bar graphs in the section second from the right, total expense, one can see that our actual expenses year-to-date were $829,000 less than budgeted. Shifting your gaze to the bar graphs on the far right, the mutual is left with $387,000 revenue over expenses for the year-to-date ending 2/28/21. Next slide, Grant, please. This slide provides you with a picture of select budget items and the current variance associated with each for the month of February. You also have the opportunity to see how each of these variances compares to the variance for each category at the end of both December and January. The top bar in each category, which are the green, represent the variances at the end of December, while the middle bars, which are gold, represent the dollar amount of the variance for each category at the end of January. And finally, the bottom bar in each category, the brown bars, represent this reporting period, February. As you can see, looking at only the brown bars, which are the bars most significant for Third at this moment in time, Third continues to have favorable variances for each of the categories for outside service, employee compensation, materials and supplies, and other operating for the period ending February 28th. There has been a positive variance in each of these categories for the past 3 months. The last 3 categories each have an unfavorable variance. There has been an increase in the usage of water and electricity that has caused the current negative variance in utilities and telephone. The issue with insurance is one that we have talked about regularly for months, and as you know, the board is working very hard to address this moving forward. If you were in attendance during President Parsons' opening remarks, you know that we are undertaking a new ballot designed to try to change the insurance component of the CC&Rs to allow the board greater flexibility in purchasing insurance in an attempt to try to curb the increasing costs. With regards to investments, with the very low, almost non-existent interest rates on our bond investments, there has been a loss of $374,000 year to date. The board has recently taken steps to stem the losses on investments by making changes to the types of investments that Third currently holds. Next slide, please. This slide depicts two pie charts for comparison purposes. Month over month, again, the total non-assessment revenue. However, these pie charts exclude the unrealized loss on AFS investments. Now, when we compare the two pie charts, the revenue month over month for each category is fairly similar. However, looking at the pie chart for the end of February, we had a negative variance for the month. This negative variance has been explained earlier in my presentation. Next slide, please. Third had additional expenses of $2,397,520, which is actually just slightly more than our expenses for January. So we had a total expense, as you can see, cumulative for the end of February of $4,666,165 year to date. For those who have been asking about our cost of legal fees, on a month over month, the fees have stabilized and represent about 2% of our total expenses. However, please keep in mind, when we speak about Third's legal expenses, this also includes what we pay to VMS for our share of their expenses and does not include reimbursements from insurance companies or legal settlement offsets, which I mentioned earlier. As noted earlier, your board is well aware of the cost of insurance and the impact on our operating and disaster budgets, as well as the cost that we've had to pass on to you. And as you know, we're now working very hard to try to address that issue through the ballot measure, as well as working with our current broker, Gallagher. Next slide, please. For this slide, I always like to direct you to look first at the lower right-hand corner. As of January 31st, Third had $30,418,000 in reserve. At the end of February, that right-hand corner box, we had $29,322,000, which represents a decrease in our total balance in reserves of just over $1 million. The decrease comes all from the disaster fund, which we anticipated because of the necessity to pay for our increase in insurance, which was not passed on to our members. So far this year, we've taken approximately $2.5 million from the disaster fund to pay for the additional insurance costs that were not passed on to the members in their monthly assessments. As reported and discussed earlier, taking the money from the disaster fund this year is a one-time option. We cannot and will not be doing this next year. On the good news side, $18,540,000 is the replacement fund, and this is an increase of $240,000 over the previous month in this category. Year to date, Third had $1,968,000 in contributions and interest added to these funds, while we had $1,724,000 in expenditures. Next slide, please. This slide compares the different fund balances for the past 5 years, which have averaged about $29.2 million. As you can see from the slide, there's been a slight decrease for this year due to the issues that we've already discussed. Next slide, please. This slide provides you with a picture of the resale situation for Third for the past 3 years. January, with 41 resales in this year, represents the best January in the past 3 years, while February, with 30 resales, also represents the best February in the last 3 years. A total of 71 resales year to date is an increase of 21 over last year. If you look up in the top right-hand corner, you'll see that year to date 2021, we had 71 resales. Year to date 2020, we had 50 resales. So that's the 21 increase. However, our average sale price has declined by about $41,000 since last year through the end of February. I do have an update, though, for resales through the end of March that is considerably more positive. For March, Third had 73 resales, averaging $380,000 just for the month of March. Looking at all 3 months of 2021, which I'm sorry I don't have a chart for, Third has had 208 resales compared to 170 for the same time last year. Total volume of sales for the first 3 months of 2021, January, February, and March, is $27,791,000 compared to $21,969,000 for the same time period of 2020. The overall average sale price for January through March is $345,000, up just around $10,000 per manor resold over the first 3 months of 2020. That concludes the Treasurer's report for this month. Our next Finance Committee meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, May 4th at 1:30. Thank you.
Thank you very much. One thing I would add on that, the leasing report, as of the end of last month, we stand at 28.24%. 28.24. Okay, on to the Architectural Control and Standards Committee. Met on March 29th at 11 a.m. 3 things I'd like to cover, and that is we have been advised that the backlog of inquiries to the Management Alterations or Manor Alterations Department has been eliminated, and the calls are now being answered in real time. Item 2, as far as asbestos rules and regulations, we've been trying to set up a meeting with AQMD and Cal OSHA, and our CEO, Jeff Parker, is working with Cal OSHA to try to get a special meeting with them to discuss this. AQMD, as I understand, is on board, and we're trying to find out why there's a difference between the 2 agencies as to what policies are and what actions we need to take. So far, I just had something in my own place, and I had to pay $1,200 for 3 small holes to be cut in my ceiling for splits. And there's a lot of people that are going through this. I mean, we don't think that that's really a fair amount that we need to pay for. So anyway, further information coming up. Hopefully we can have a meeting with these 2 agencies and clear that up. Also, there's a contractor letter that's being generated and sent out to contractors from staff. And Mr. Doncost and Staff Officer Fogg confirmed that contractors are mandated to sign mutual consent permit paperwork stating that they follow Laguna Woods Village rules and regulations. So if you want to follow up on that to find out what they are, you can contact staff and they'll help you understand that. Okay, onwards to the Communications Committee. Director McCary.
Thank you, President Parsons. The Third Communications Committee last met on January 13th, 2021. The next meeting is scheduled for July 14th at 1:30 p.m., and it is a virtual meeting.
Thank you. On to report of maintenance construction, Director Muchnick.
Thank you, President Parsons. I last reported on the work of this committee at our March meeting, and there are no updates at this time. The next meeting of the Maintenance Construction Committee is scheduled for May 3rd at 1:30, and that'll be a virtual meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, a report of the Parking and Golf Cart Subcommittee, Director Dodson.
There hasn't been another meeting since my last report, but we do have one scheduled for May 14th, and we will just be giving the EV update at that time. So we're getting closer to the opportunity to have the grants from SoCal Edison, and we should have some updated information on May 14th.
Okay, thank you. Report of the Garden Villa Rec Room Subcommittee, Director Jarrett.
We have not had a meeting since February. Our next meeting is going to be in June. We'll wait and schedule that meeting when we have the new supervisor on duty and maintenance that will be taking over the maintenance of the rec rooms. So that's all I have to report on the Garden Villa subcommittee. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Report of Landscape Committee.
Landscape is a great subject. We're fast approaching the budget season. We're contemplating increasing services for next year and are sharpening our pen to do so. We'd like to add some positions to handle shrub bed maintenance cycles. We would also like to add funding for landscape modernization, which includes turf renovation. Our water bill in third is approaching $3 million, and we're in the middle of a drought. Just in the past 5 days, there have been some quite interesting articles about the mega drought that we Californians are in. We simply cannot sustain all the grass in areas that people don't even walk on. All water, as well as that used for irrigation in Gate 11 and Gates 14, is potable water. We're seriously looking at where we can reduce the turf. It is imperative for our future water bills. We really need to seriously look at that for today and for the future. With all that said, we put together a wish list, but for the funding isn't there because of insurance costs and maintenance projects we put off last year until this year. We'll need to hold off for another year on projects we'd like to see get done. We're doing the best we can with our funding, but we have put forth a wish list for our budget. In the meantime, VMS Landscape Director Kurt Weeman reported that everything is growing fast. As you can see, the grass is looking pretty darn good because it's been fertilized now. And the pre-emergence for weed control is being applied as well. You might detect an odor for a day or two, but if we go the expensive route without that odor, the cost is $800 per gallon. Pro branding mowers are on order, and they should be much more efficient than the older ones. A shade structure was completed at the nursery with another structure soon to be completed. A trailer was purchased for the nursery crew to have the ability to deliver plants to the crews in the field. Tree trimming is ongoing primarily with the contractor who is scheduled to trim trees along with those that were on the schedule 2 years ago. We're still trying to play catch up. Mission Landscape is continuing their work on the slopes. And inquiring about the many bare spots that are reported, we are told that there is a long list of bare spots being planted continuously by a crew of 5 men. You could check online to see when shrub maintenance work is scheduled in your area. And don't forget that the landscape manual is always available online and it's continuously being updated. I have a few slides to show you today. They are your end results that I intended to show last month but didn't for the lack of time. So I'll quickly go through these few slides and talk about them when they're ready to go by the organizer. While we're waiting, I'll tell you that the next landscape meeting will be May the 6th at 9:30 a.m. virtually. Okay, as you can see, it was dated March the 16th. Excuse me. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, total landscape tickets. As you can see, in 2018, we had a total of almost 10,000 tickets. At the end of 2020, we have taken care of 7,000 tickets. So the tickets have come down. That means the landscape crew is working really hard. Next slide, please. Okay. Again, Third Mutual. We're looking at the, again, total grounds complaint tickets. The grounds complaint tickets amounted to 2,500, as you can see, in 2018, and in 2020, they're at 2,900. And that's another reason why we're trying to get funding approved to take care of ground maintenance that are better equipped next year. Next slide, please. Total irrigation tickets. The irrigation tickets were down again from 2018, from 1,760 to almost 1,300. The irrigation tickets are taken care of as quickly as we find leaks and so forth. And anytime you find a leak in an irrigation pipe, you need to, any irrigation pipes that you see, you need to call those in, and after hours you can call security. They'll be taken care of right away. Next slide, please. Okay, tree-related tickets. So you can see we've been taking care of a lot of tree tickets, and that's primarily because we had a contractor come in, and we've been contracting the trees starting last year, and it's really, really been helpful to get rid of a lot of the tree tickets, tree trimming tickets that we've had. Next slide, please. Okay, total pest control tickets. This pest control is ongoing, down from 2,400 tickets in 2018 to 1,800 in 2020. The pest control tickets, next slide, please. We're talking here about the ants, rodents, and ants. You can see in November how many rodents, and in October too, how many rodent tickets we've taken care of. It's unbelievable, and primarily it's because of rats. And you'll see, and then they picked up again. This tickets picked up again early in the year, this year when the rains came, because that's when it's cold and rainy, the rodent tickets pick up. Next, please. Clippings tickets. These are for people who pick up their own clippings during the week, and so they call into resident services with a ticket for pickup. And you can see that has really increased, that number. Okay? Next slide. Next slide, please. Okay, you got the leaf tickets. All right. So the same thing is with the leaf tickets. So when people pick up their leaves and the clippings, they can always leave them out for Friday pickup. And you do need to call resident services. And that service has been really popular for people to have their clippings and their leaves picked up. Next slide, please. And the last one. The grounds maintenance, the key tickets. As you can see, a lot of the tickets, these tickets are for lawn repair, leaves, mulch, weeds, sidewalks, cleaning sidewalks, pruning shrubs, and replacing shrubs, and shrubs treated. And again, that's why we're trying to get more funding for next year to get more ground maintenance work taken care of on a more timely basis. Right now, we're doing this work 4 times a year, but we would like to be able to do it 5 times a year. So anyway, as you can see, it's a lot of work being done in landscape. Thank you. That ends my report.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions for Lynn? Thank you for that presentation. Very informative. Okay, on to the report of the Water Committee. Director Rain Shostak.
The Water Committee meets quarterly. We had our last meeting in January, and the next meeting is scheduled very soon. It'll be April 29th from 2 to 3:30, and it will be a virtual meeting. Water conservation is absolutely critical for us. As you heard Director Jarrett mention, the water bill for Third Mutual is approaching $3 million a year. That has 2 components to it. One component is landscape, and you heard her mention that landscaping is looking at ways to reduce turf, put in drought-resistant plants, decreases maintenance as well as water consumption. So it's a cost savings all the way around and a beautification at the same time. The other half of that, and the half that our committee can really focus on much more, is the residential water bill. And that's something that we all can contribute to reducing. We'll be planning educational programs. We're fortunate to have 2 directors from El Toro Water District, residents of Laguna Woods, and they are advisors to our committee. So hopefully after our April meeting, you'll be hearing some plans to help decrease the bills, educate residents, and get that bill down further and conserve water. This is drought time, and there are real concerns about water. So thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And on to the report of Resident Policy and Compliance Committee, Director Jarrett. You're muted.
Our last meeting was in February, and right now we do not have a meeting scheduled. We may be meeting in June. Thank you.
Okay, that completes the Third Mutual Committee reports. And I have to apologize to Karen Shore. I didn't see her hand up, and she has some questions on finances. So, Karen, if you could ask your question, that would be great.
Okay, looks like I'm unmuted now. I have questions regarding the slides, Robert. I'm looking at the slides 3 and 4, and slide 3 shows that the assessment revenue for February 28th is approximately $3.5 million. But slide 4 shows that the actual assessment revenue for 2/28 is $5.8 million. I just wondered why there was that discrepancy. And I have another question after that regarding finances.
The assessment revenue on slide 3 is income operating fund only on slide 3, okay? And you've got to add assessment and non-assessment revenue together. The slide 4 is the actual versus budgeted. So it includes more than just the operating. It includes the interest earned on reserves and things of that nature as well, contributions on reserves, etc.
Okay, thank you. And then on slides 9 and 10, you talk about the replacement funds. I assume that means the reserve funds. I just have a question. I understand Third every year gets a reserve fund study done, but we don't follow that study. I'm just curious why you choose an alternate plan for the reserve studies than the professional basically recommendation that we pay for every year.
The reserve studies that we have are done in-house by our in-house staff.
Okay.
That was explained to you last time on the Finance Committee. We went over the same exact thing, and that was all explained to you then.
But my recollection is that when we get the finance statements sent to our homes, we also get a copy of the reserve studies.
Right.
And those reserve studies don't match up dollar-wise with what we're seeing in our actual.
Because the reserve study, when we do that, we don't raise the rates each year on the HOA fees, because if we had to raise them, it's a goal that we're trying to reach, and that our current reserves represent a certain percentage of where we want to be.
Okay.
So it's not. It doesn't happen year to year. It happens over time that we're building that reserve fund.
Okay, that's helpful to know that that's your goal, because I haven't heard that come across, that you do seek to attain that goal, because it's very important for longevity of our community.
Absolutely, and if you'll notice this year, when you go back and look at the budget, we actually raised the amount of contribution we made this year to reserve fund.
Well, okay, great. But it'd be real helpful and have a little more of that year over year, like you did with the slides 9 and 10, instead of mostly just the year to date data that we're being presented with, because it puts it into much better context, and I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. I understand that Jules has been reconnected, if we can let him in for his comment that we had to go by before. Jules, are you on? Jules? Okay, evidently we're still having some connection problems. We'll go on from here. GRF committee highlights. Community Activities Committee. Director Karimi, are you on and able to connect? He was having connection problems a little bit ago.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, which report you want me to go?
Community Activities Committee.
Okay. Thank you, President Parson. We had a meeting on April 8th at 1:30 p.m. Some of the highlights of the meeting is that VMS has started expanding services to further opening depends on the state recommendations and the tiers for the COVID. Implementing TIAP reservation online, and it needs some fine tuning, but it's going very well. The members are using it very actively. Scutari Center modification and improvement in facilities ongoing. Also, VMS working on opening the library with the installation of plexiglass. That's in progress. The gradual reopening plan laid out by Brian Gruner and Jeff Parker on TV6 on April 1. I hope that, and that pretty much laid out that's how we're going to reopen the facilities. Also, the farmers market at Garden Center is in July. So be ready for that. That's my report for that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The Equestrian Center Ad Hoc Committee, Director Bada, and he isn't here. Who is filling in for him on that?
I am President Parson.
Okay, thank you.
The committee, the ad hoc committee did meet in March, and a report was given at our March board meeting. The next committee meeting is going to be in 2 months because the committee has decided to go to every other month meeting for the ad hoc committee, and they will continue to do that until the Equestrian Center as a whole is opened. And that's the end of my report.
Okay. Thank you very much. On to the GRF Finance Committee, Director Muchnick.
Thank you, President Parsons. The GRF Finance Committee last met on February 17th. I provided you with an update on the results of that meeting at our March board meeting. The next meeting of the GRF Finance Committee is scheduled for tomorrow, the 21st, at 1:30 p.m. That'll be a virtual meeting, and therefore I'll have a report for you on the workings of this committee at our next regularly scheduled meeting of 3rd next month. Thank you.
Okay, GRF Landscape Committee, Director Jarrett.
Thank you, President Parsons. The GRF Landscape Committee met on March the 10th. And the primary discussion was on the creek and how often they're going to be cutting the cattails because they have to do that according to approval from different agencies. The main topic of that meeting that day was a joint session between United and Third. At the end of the meeting of the GRF Landscape, which we really didn't have that much to discuss, the joint meeting was to discuss whether we would do to buy lawnmowers. Baggers for the lawnmowers. And it's such an expensive project, and although we would like to do it, we discussed this at length to have bagging lawnmowers. The problem is it's just not the purchase of the mowers themselves, but it's also labor, very labor intensive to take the baggers off there. So there's much discussion going on And we decided that we would not do that this year because of budgetary constraints. So we'll take that at another time. The next meeting will be May the 12th at 1:30 p.m. It'll be a virtual meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. GRF Maintenance Construction Committee, Director Frankel.
The last meeting was held on April 14th, and there were many items that were intensely discussed. One of them was high-rise toilets, which we're going to replace in all of the GRF facilities. There's 186 of them, 81 are 17 inches tall, and so the 105 are 14 inches tall, and those will be replaced. We discussed intensely the tennis court resurfacing, and there was an initial presentation there will be an initial presentation by Director Dodson on EV charging, which we discussed in some detail. And this report on all of the closed stations will be discussed by Director Dodson in significant detail. And if you're interested, you should contact her, and she'll make sure that you get a copy of the report with all of the proposed locations. The driving range is still being discussed, and it has not yet been released. They were going to spend a significant amount of money, $680,000, and that has been determined to be somewhat unacceptable, and so we're still working on that. We had a walkthrough on Building E, and there's a proposal. There's some discussion. Building E is in the maintenance center, and it appears to have some failure in some of the walls and some of the base. And we'll be discussing and have discussed whether we should consider how to fix that building and whether replacement is even an option. And and finally, there was some discussion on the filtration systems for the clubhouses, HEPA versus ionization, which affects the air that is circulated. And the next meeting for the committee will be on June 9th.
Okay.
And that can.
Okay, thank you. Okay, on to Clubhouse 1 Renovation Ad Hoc Committee, Director Engdahl.
President Parsons. The committee and staff met on March 23rd with representatives from 2 architectural firms. I think there were a couple more invited that did not show. The purpose of the meeting was to discuss the programmatic study regarding Clubhouse 1. There was a lot of discussion regarding where we are in the project and where we want to go and just how to proceed. We have in hand the previous evaluation of the present facility relating to the physical condition and characteristics, except some structural details which will have to be looked at. Since the refurbishment of the Clubhouse 1 facility could entail considerable costs, depending on what's envisioned, the committee recognizes the need to get the best value for the dollars available. A significant part of that is determining just what and how Clubhouse 1 facility might best fit into the overall village program to meet the needs and desires of present and future residents. Such was the purpose of a programmatic study, and the purpose of this meeting was to familiarize the potential architects of such a study with the desired scope. The previous RFP rough draft has been slightly revised accordingly and the next meeting of the committee will be determined.
Okay, thank you. On to Media and Communications Committee, Director McCary.
Thank you, President Parsons. The Media and Communications Committee met on April 19th. It was a virtual meeting. It was announced, exciting news, that Paul Ortiz has been promoted to General Manager of Broadband. So the committee congratulated Paul. He will be working with Eileen. Oops, sorry about this. And happy. He will be working with Eileen to look into the study that was done earlier by the Broadband Group, and they will look at that study and decide how to move forward with some of the requests made by the consultant. In addition to Paul and Eileen working with this Broadband Group, there is an ad hoc committee that was formed within the Media and Communications Committee that will be working along with them. Paul also did a great presentation on our contract with our cable subscribers, and we are hopeful that we might invite him to do a presentation for our board. But he looked at the internet contracts and the ones that are coming up for expiration, and he also noted that NCTC are the ones who negotiate these contracts. The GRF West Coast Internet is renewable in December 21, with the caveat that the contracts must be signed within 6 months of renewal. And some of the contracts are 5 years. So more information will be coming in terms of the cable contracts. It was also announced that the VMS year-end review is on YouTube, which can be reached via the website. Communications has started a bi-weekly newsletter for alterations, primarily to help with the permit process. And then the last thing that it was touched on just a little bit, the vaccination program has received about 300 plus requests for vaccinations. And as Jeff announced earlier, that date is this coming Saturday. And this will be the end of the vaccination project, as reported by Media and Communications. And that's the end of my report. Thank you, President Parsons.
Okay. Thank you. Mobility and Vehicles Committee, Director Karimi.
President Parsons, the committee met on April 7 at 1:30 p.m. The report for the month of March on the ride ship report was number one, the 500 rides per month, 280 riders, average of 12 trips per riders. The wellness ride is the most used one, which transports individuals to the medical offices. The journey ride ship, which is curbside to curbside pickup, which is mainly making for the doctor appointment, with 380 rides per month, average of 5 trips per user. The Boost by Lyft ridership was about 40 trips per month, and that includes weekends, night, and Sunday trips. The vehicle inventory for the Laguna Woods Village is at 412 vehicles. That's a pretty substantial number of vehicles that we have. And it is recommended that we replace about 149 of those over 5 years. The purchase of 4 F-350 pickup trucks was moved to this year with no additional budget needed. And the purchase of the F-2050 pickup truck was moved to the next year in order to be able to manage the purchase of the vehicle that's needed to replace. Our next meeting is June 2nd at 1:30, and that's the report for the mobility vehicle. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Security and Community Access Committee. Who's filling in for Director Vada on that? Okay, we'll have a update next time. Disaster Preparedness Task Force, Director McCary.
Thank you, President Parsons. The task force, Disaster Preparedness Task Force, met on March 30th. It was a virtual meeting. One announcement is there is a new admin coordinator. Her name is Jelana, and I can't pronounce her last name, so I'll just leave it at Jelana. It was also reported that the Good Neighbor training in conjunction with the American Red Cross that was held earlier on March 26th was a success. There were 26 attendees. The handheld radio drill was conducted. 13 of the 14 radio check-ins responded. There was only one non-responder. It was also discussed in the committee that they are looking at some digital analog handheld radios. And so more information on that will be presented to the committee as we get it. But they are looking at those digital analog or handheld radios, digital. There was also some discussion in terms of backup generators in the clubhouses and what clubhouses actually have backup generators. There was some discussion, and so the committee has asked for confirmation at the next meeting of how many clubhouses actually do have backup generators. And the committee also requested that the emergency operating procedure manual be updated to include the location of these generators in the clubhouses. The next meeting is scheduled for May 25th, and it will be a virtual meeting. And that's the end of my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Report of Laguna Woods Village traffic hearings, Director Dotson.
We did not have any traffic hearings again. I'm sorry that I'll have to look up the date for the next meeting, but yeah, there haven't been money, so we've not had any.
Okay, thank you. Okay, GRF Strategic Planning Ad Hoc Committee, Director Muchnick.
Thank you, President Parsons. The GRF committee last met on the 17th of March. At this meeting, there was a discussion of the two different subcommittee considerations, which were reviewed, and there's going to be more discussion, but no decisions were made as to how to proceed. More discussion is clearly needed. The date for the next meeting is yet to be determined. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And budget workshops, Director Muchnick.
Director Karimi has graciously agreed to share with you the information associated with the training workshops. Director Karimi, it's all yours.
I'm sorry, I lost the audio. Can you repeat what I'm supposed to do?
Yes, sir. You're supposed to talk about the workshops. You've agreed to share the information associated with all the past training workshops and the upcoming scheduled ones.
Thank you, Mr. Muchnick. You put me on the stand, and I have no information to share. I apologize. I don't know actually I was supposed to do that. I apologize. It must be on my side fault, but I don't take responsibility.
Okay, well, what we're talking about is that in the month of March, there were a whole host of training workshops for all the board members from the three different boards that specifically addressed things related to the upcoming budget process. We heard reports from each of the different divisions: maintenance and construction, landscaping, finance, human resources, etc. And they were very productive in terms of training us so that we can help prepare the budget. And coming up, as Jeff Parker talked about in his opening remarks, there'll be a couple of all-day workshops in June to help continue the process for training the board members for purposes of budget preparation. Thank you.
Okay, is there anything we left out on the GRF committee side?
Yes.
Oh, go ahead, John.
The next traffic hearing meeting is tomorrow.
Okay, the 21st.
Yes.
Okay, thank you for your clarification. Okay, future agenda items, anything we need to add? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead with director's comments. I'll start with Donna first. Any last comments?
No comments, thank you.
Okay, John Frankel?
I'll pass, thank you.
Okay, Reza?
No comment, thank you.
Okay, Ralph?
No comment, thank you.
Annie?
A great meeting, President Parsons. Thanks to all the residents who showed up with resident comments. Thank you for your comments. And that's it for me.
Okay, Lynn?
Yes, I'd like to answer a message that I saw late in the chat box. And that was, why did we decide as third board, why did we decide to keep the rec rooms closed? The reason for that was safety. We have people in the community that have decided not to get vaccinated. So we can't say that all people are vaccinated. So we have decided as third board that we would continue on with Jeff Parker's, what he's proposing and is a proponent of is the governor's orders and coming down. We're looking at probably June timeframe to open the clubhouses and then the rec rooms. We don't want to have clubs meeting in the rec rooms because of there's a lot of different reasons for that. But one of the biggest things is safety and health. So that's what I wanted to say about that. Otherwise, it was a great meeting. Thank you.
Okay, Director Wayne?
No comment for this meeting.
Okay, Director Dodson?
No comment.
Okay, Director Moochnight?
The only thing I'd like to say is that hopefully we'll have the draft wording of the ballot out next week, probably towards the end of next week, at which time we'll be more than happy to receive comments from members regarding the wording of that ballot. Again, it's only going to be related to us being able to do something less than 100% replacement cost on insurance. That's all it's going to address. We're not addressing any other issues related to the CC&Rs or bylaws. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone I missed?
There's a question in that someone posed, and it's regarding vaccine discrimination. We're not discriminating against people for vaccines in our community. We are following the guidelines set forth by the state of California with regards to reopening, and we are following the rules that VMS is using for reopening. There's nothing with regards to vaccine discrimination whatsoever in that statement that Lynn made regarding the Garden Villa rec rooms. We are following VMS and the state of California guidelines.
Okay, thank you. Okay, our CEO, Jeff Parker, are you there?
I don't have anything. Thank you, Steve.
Okay, Siobhan?
No, thank you, Steve.
Okay. Cheryl, do you have any comments, parting comments?
No, just contact me at your earliest convenience regarding the ballot initiative. Thank you.
Okay, and Grant?
I don't have anything.
Okay.
Did we possibly try to get on for a third time the member who was having difficulties?
We're going to have to proceed forward. But there was a comment that I'll address here by Karen Shore about asking the training sessions for the budget be put online for the public. That is being done, and they should be up very soon if they're not already up. So you'll be able to go through those in depth. Highly recommend it for anybody so that you know what's happening in the budget process. Okay, that's all I have for now. So we'll consider our meeting adjourned for now and recessed. And we'll come together again at 12:45. Thank you so much.